Stand up.
Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Coach's Corner, where every Thursday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern, Coach Dave Serrano and myself are joined by coaches from around the country at the college level. And this evening's guest, Pac-12 coach, University of Oregon, top 25 ranked Oregon Ducks, Mark Wasikowski. And I want to say thank you first and foremost, Coach, for joining us midweek. We know it's very, very busy this time of year. So both Dave and I really appreciate you joining us here tonight.
Yeah, my pleasure. Glad to be here.
Hey, Waz, I'll start out. It's a pleasure to have you on. I'm thrilled to have you on, Walter and I, to have you. I'm going to go back through your journey as a coach. Obviously, you played at Pepperdine. You started your career, and I hope I'm accurate, at Southeast Missouri State. Then you moved on to the University of Florida and worked for Hall of Fame coach Andy Lopez, and then went to the University of Arizona and stayed with Coach Lopez, and then worked for another Hall of Fame coach as the recruiting coordinator at University of Oregon and George Horton. Then you became a head coach at Purdue University, and then which led you to now the head coach at the Oregon Ducks. Recruiting has changed so much, Waz, and I put you in my top three of head coaches now that are prowess recruiters, okay? And you're in my top three. How much has recruiting has changed? But give the listeners a little bit. You've been at a lot of different places in different pockets of the country. How much different has it been from place to place to recruit to? And what I mean is, you're at Oregon. You can't just get in the car like I could at Cal State Fullerton and drive and see hundreds of great players every day. How has it changed from each place you've been at?
Yeah, you forgot a couple of stops early in the deal about being an assistant coach at the high school level too. So it wasn't all that, the wonderful glitz and glamour of the SEC and the Pac-12. But to answer your question, Coach Serrano, it's an honor to be on with a guy as good as you have been in your career. So a guy I looked up to so much. For me, it's real simple. I mean, you've got to be really, really thorough and really detailed, and you can't leave stones unturned during the not just the evaluation process, but before you get out on the road. When you're at a place like Oregon, I was at a place, really even the University of Arizona. It's in Tucson. It's 2 hours from the nearest big city, really, outside of Tucson. It's 2 hours from Phoenix. Here it's 2 hours from Portland, which is the big city around here. And so most of the time when you're going out and you're watching a game, you're right, Coach, you can't just get in your car and stop by a few fields like you can in Southern California and catch, 20 different players in one day and just kind of check them off. You can't do that. And so what do you got to do? You got to really rely on the guys behind the scenes in the trenches that are with those kids to get the information that you need beforehand. Is it worth my time? Is it worth my trip? Because it's not just to stop by for a half hour and stop by a field or two on my way home fighting traffic, and that's I either sit in traffic or I stop by a field or three. That's not the deal. When we go on the road, we go on the road, and we're packing a bag. We're usually going overnight, and it's usually a flight. And so you got to be really good with the people behind the scenes, the travel ball coaches and the high school coaches, in terms of makeup, in terms of, are these guys even people that are going to function in a college environment? Do they care about the team? Do they care about winning? Are they decent students to where they're not going to struggle with the just student part of the student athlete piece? And then how motivated really are they to be great baseball players? Or are they going to be guys that are really diving into the social element of college like regular college students are? And there's nothing wrong with that, but it just doesn't, when you're a student athlete at this level, you don't have that time to be student athlete and fun-go-lucky guy away from the field in the classroom. That's 3 jobs. You already got 2 full-time jobs. It's already hard enough. And so to kind of eliminate those variables, Coach, I think are really critical before you either get in the car for a long drive or get on a flight for multiple days.
Coach, one of the things when I'm looking over the roster at Oregon, I see South Carolina, I see Texas, I see Ontario. So, a lot of people assume that Pac-12 is just going to be California along the West Coast. How do student athletes from, say, the East Coast or, the Southeast, how are they getting on your radar? Do you have trusted resources in those areas that parents need to be aware of, or more importantly, student athletes need to be aware of if they have an interest in the University of Oregon?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we've got our contacts to where the guys that we trust will get us to the field, but ultimately it's going to be our eyes that are going to make the decision. And we're not just going to go off of somebody's opinion. And if there's travel ball coaches or high school coaches out there that have led us astray in the past, we're not going to show up to your field. We've been burned before. Our time is valuable. We're not going to come back and get burned again. We just don't have that kind of time. And so a lot of the kids, if it's an Ontario kid or you're relying on a contact that may be extremely trusted in the past to get you to a major event where you can see some of these guys play against the best competition. A lot of other guys that are going to go on and either be drafted highly or go on to other four-year schools that are really good. And so you want to see them play against the best, and that's how you end up getting there. The camp situation, I don't discount. I think that's fantastic. It's really a great way to be able to get up in front with a kid. And I can't tell you how many times we've had a guy on a radar and you're just uncertain about his personality. And then you're around a kid and boy, he can swing you one way or the other so quick. Just being around that kid at a one-on-one camp type setting, or, if it's a group of kids, there's 100 of them, you're working your way around and just kind of eyeballing kids and seeing how they interact and seeing how much joy. That's a big deal. How much joy they bring to the field with them. How much enthusiasm do they bring? You can get a real feeling. One of the things I like to do when I'm recruiting is I like to not necessarily wear the Oregon O and the Oregon shirt, the fancy stuff, but I'd really rather just kind of show up next to a dugout looking like just a guy. And I want to see how they're interacting in the dugout. Is that star player sitting off by himself? And if he is, I'm wondering why, or is that star player really gathering and uniting people and just enjoying being around his teammates? So much to be said for that, because when you're dealing with selfishness at a level that, a player just doesn't care about his team at all, and you see that in recruiting, boy, it breaks your heart when you get in a car or get in the airplane and you fly that far and you see a kid and he just flat out eliminates himself because he's so self-consumed with himself. And believe me, the parents can do the same thing too, because when we watch those parents and how they act, that's an element in there too. And you just go, man, with all the efforts that the parents and players have put into this thing to give themselves opportunities, why wouldn't they have the mindset that says that even the other things that I do can be viewed and remove opportunities from my son's chances? That blows my mind that somebody would not have the awareness to even consider that at all opportunities when we're out there watching kids.
Well, that's powerful. That's a powerful comment right there. And that's great education for the people out there. And I completely agree. And a lot of people don't understand there's so much more that goes into it than just the skills out on the baseball field, because you're investing money and time into somebody to build a championship program. So coming off of that, everyone's different. Okay. You've been really successful and at most stops, besides being the head coach, you've been the recruiting coordinator. So you've probably been in charge of the finances when it comes to the dollars in the scholarship money. How do you, I'm not telling you to give away your secrets, but give me a guesstimate percentage of how you invest your money through the field, through the baseball field of the 9 positions out there.
Well, you're starting in your most critical positions, and that's, on the mound and in the middle of the field, the shortstop position, the catching position, and the center field position, and then you're working out from there. And unfortunately, some of the guys that are just corner pieces, unless they can just flat out bang and usually hit and run, the combination of hit and run, right or left-handed, there's guys that just you're not going to have aid for. And those are the kind of kids that need to understand that it's just a business. It's not a reflection. Like if there's a coach still calling you and they're spending their time away from their family and they're calling you and they're recruiting you, even if they don't have money, those are some of the recruits that I've wanted the most in the world, because you just can't pay certain spots, but yet you need them. And so with 11.7, if there's a coach that's calling you and spending your time recruiting you, quit worrying about the money. That was the biggest mistake I made as a player in my life, is I went to a school on a huge scholarship and I ended up transferring out of there to go to a junior college to learn how to play more, and then accepting no scholarship money at a place that I knew was a fantastic situation for me. And so really, I think it's one of the traps, scholarship money. Boy, if they don't give you money, then they don't care about you. That's so false. If they're willing to invest their time in you away from their families, I mean, that's more important than scholarship money because their efforts behind it. That's number one. Number two is you look at guys. I'm going to use a guy. Justin Turner. You recruited him. You got him. First time I saw him, I went, "Holy cow! This guy's a runt. He's got no power, but he's got great instincts, great actions. It looks like he can really play defense." And he was a uniter. He was a guy that had great ball in the dirt reads. He understood baseball. He was a total coach on the field. And so where that guy might be valued at a level, let's say, of a 40% scholarship, he's going to bring additional value to the table, and you're going to pay that guy more because you see his impact on the team. Same thing with Nick Madrigal. I told my boss at the time, whoever gets this kid's going to win a national championship. He was that powerful of a uniter, and he was able to take kids that maybe weren't uniters like that, but bring them together. And a glue piece like that in the locker room, where Nick Madrigal was a Team USA player. He wasn't a secret under a rock that all of a sudden, somebody found and recruited him. And boy, this unbelievable story. No, this guy was a Team USA guy from the time that he was a freshman, but in high school. But still yet, the guy ended up being a great player because he was such a coach on the field that the coaches, he was in charge of that locker room. And the coach can't get in, no coach can get that deep into a locker room without the assistance of those glue pieces in the locker room. So a guy like Nick Madrigal, if he was worth books, tuition, and fee scholarship, boy, you'd be willing to pay him even a full scholarship, knowing he'd be worth all that extra stuff I just got done talking about in the locker room. And in that case, you'd go, wow, I don't usually give full scholarships, but I will in this case because this kid's going to win a national championship wherever he goes. Dustin Pedroia, very similar makeup, as you remember, Dave. Similar guys like that, you just go, wow, they stand out so much because they're doing little things constantly, and they're not forced things that they're doing. It's not like they're doing it when they look over there and they see the coach over there from Vanderbilt and they go, wow, I got to play good today, so I'm going to put on my brown nose face. They're doing that stuff because those kids are just built that way. It's coming from the house. Those parents are teaching them. It's about your teammates and make them better. They're teaching them the great lessons. And so as a college coach, yeah, you've got your purse and your budget, and you're going to spend money from the middle of the field out pitching first. And there's budgets and scholarship allotments for each position. But still, you're going to go over that when you see a kid that adds more value than maybe you have money for. You're going to make it work just because you see, man, this guy's going to impact my locker room in a positive way at such a level. I can't miss on him.
Mark, one of the things I want to kind of bring out, it's May, we're getting into high school graduation, a lot of student athletes that are preparing for, their next level of baseball. And I want to kind of continue on this point. When we start talking about, the we versus me, I used to have a T-shirt that I handed out to every kid. Winners execute versus make excuses. Don't be that guy that makes excuses. Celebrate others. Celebrate their success, be a part of everybody else's success, share in that. Can you talk about that transition from today's world of, youth sports, travel baseball, out of high school, and then you go into college where it's all about the we, and it's not so much about the me and my statistics and, my successes. Can you talk about that transition from the younger athlete into the more seasoned, polished teammate that you're referring to?
It's a deep question, right? It's just, I can just say this much. It's the difference maker at the college level. I don't know professional baseball. I've never coached in pro ball. I've watched it and I don't get that game. I can't speak to that game. I can speak to the college game though. And the best players are the ones that are unselfish. They're the ones that they literally do care about their teammates' success. I can't say more than their own because I don't know if anybody's really wound up that way. You care about yourself. And it's fine to be a little bit selfish internally with, man, that drives you. It drives you to be great. But yet the kid that's there and rallying around his teammates are then going to back, because they feel that positive energy, that kid really does care about him. But it's deeper than just the ball field, in my opinion. That starts with how people are treating each other at breakfast in the morning, and are they giving a guy a ride, or waiting for a teammate, or just leaving him hanging? Are they bringing a glove out to him in the field, or are they just making them go get it themselves? Or it seems like a huge effort for somebody to bring me my glove after I was standing at second base, let's say, and the third out was made. And then this guy that maybe made the out, he's got to bring me my glove, and he's just salty about his at-bat. He doesn't want to bring me my glove. It's just like, wow, man, it's a game of failure. You hear it a bunch. It's all the cliches, but it really is true. Like, the guys that can get past it and over the negatives quicker, and just understand that it is a game. It's a game of failure. We're all going to screw something up. And ultimately, it's going to be about how you're remembered in that locker room. And those guys are going to have your back a whole heck of a lot more if you know that you got their back. And I don't know, it just almost feels like the guys that are the selfish guys are bringing an extra bag with them to the park that's so heavy that at some point in time they're going to get injured, because the weight of that bag is so heavy that they just can't carry it anymore, and they're going to get hurt. And it's the negative stuff, it's the selfish stuff, and it's all the things in that bag that aren't bringing the team together, and it isn't really probably helping themselves play better. But that weight of that bag eventually is just going to get so heavy that it's going to break them. And then there's a time period about how we got to get that guy back on track, and that's energy. That's a lot of energy wasted in an area where you'd rather not have to spend that amount of energy. And the great players, the really great players, you just don't spend that energy on them because they don't bring that bag with them to the park.
Hey, Waz, I know you've heard this term. It's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes. And I think I could proudly say that knowing your history and knowing you well, I think you check both boxes. You bring in the Jimmies and the Joes, but you also know the X's and O's with your coaching staff. Has it become, and I don't want to sound like a dinosaur when I say this, but has it become more difficult to get the buy-in from the player of today to be developed, because he's got so many voices on the outside that they're listening to that it's hard to focus on just one voice? They've got the internet, they've got social media, they could be educated any way they want. They can pick up their phone and they can pull up. Is it getting harder to get the focus of the coaching staff at, I'm going to say, the University of Oregon, to get the buy-in to what you're educating them?
There's no doubt about it. There's more information out there. And so with more information becomes, you could say with more information comes more pollution in their mind, or you can also take it to the other side of it. And this is how I choose to do it. There's more information, which means that your player is desiring to learn. He's desiring to get better. And so if he's listening to outside sources, what a positive that is, because that kid now is, it could be harder. You could say, wow, it's harder, poor us. Or you can just go, wow, this guy's got a real passion and desire to learn. And so it's my job to connect with him. And so if I can connect with him, or my staff can connect with him and find a way to connect with him with his desire, what's that lead to the potential of this guy? This guy's got huge potential. Then, think about the other way. Would you rather have a guy that's listening to all kinds of outside sources, seeking improvement and a way to do it better? Or would you rather have the guy that cares less about baseball and he's not interested in learning and developing and finding out what's out there, and he's out there, doing something non-baseball related? I'd take the first guy. Yes, it is challenging, but at least there's a desire and an appetite for that guy to improve, and it's our job as coaches to connect.
Coach, one of the things I'd like to talk about is two things. First of all, the Pac-12. I'm on the East Coast, and, over here we talk ACC, SEC, Big Ten, and on that subject, you get a couple of West Coast teams coming into the Big Ten. What makes University of Oregon so special, so dynamic, both from an academic perspective, a campus perspective, and a baseball perspective with regard to the Pac-12?
When you come to this school, it blows your mind. And The University of Oregon is a place, I've coached the University of Florida, University of Arizona, and I've been to every school in the Pac-12, too many times, and the SEC as well. When you coach a place like the University of Oregon, it doesn't take you but 2 seconds to walk on, the athletic facilities and looking out my windows at the facilities and the buildings. The desire to be great here is unbelievable. You can walk out of this office and see Michael Jordan in the hallway, LeBron James. You can walk down in the treatment in the training center and see any Nike client training in our facilities any day of the week. And, you pass by people every day and just go, holy cow. Yeah, that's who that was. And so for me, the first thing that I would say is when you're at the University of Oregon, this place is striving like crazy to win championships. The track and field programs won 33 national championships.
Wow.
But, and then the other sports, the same thing. It's all about the value of excellence. They're not going to cut a corner in any way, shape, or form, whether it comes to the student athlete meals, the supplements, the facilities that they're training in. They're all going to be top of the line. And the best part about it, though, is the people around here that you see every single day. It's the excellent people that have already made it in professional sports. The Phil Knights of the world. He's coming from the shoe company that's #1 in the world, and they back this place more than any place in college athletics or professional athletics. That's his level of investment. And so when you have those kind of people just around you on a daily basis, I mean, by osmosis, you're going to learn something, and you're going to. And for me, that's what's really fun about this place is we're striving like crazy to get to the top of college baseball, and it's not easy. But when you're at a place like this, you're walking around every single day and seeing greatness left and right. And the expectation of greatness is always here. Some coaches feel like, wow, that's a little bit of pressure. And I look at it and I just go, it's pressure everywhere. I mean, for the student athletes out there, hey, when you get to a Division I school that's in the top 25, top 50 schools out there, hey, boys, it's going to be a pressure deal. All right. This whole, hey, I just want to have fun. I do too. And yet the way you have fun is by winning, and the way you win is by succeeding and developing. And so that whole chain starts more or less first thing in the morning, or probably even late last night. Are you going to bed at the right time? Are you eating right? Are you waking up first thing in the morning, getting something in you? Because those things are so critical in the building blocks to development that if you want to have success at a level like this, you have to start doing things right the night before. And if you don't, boy, it's going to catch up to you quick, and you're going to get passed by the guy that's doing it right.
Hey, Waz, I think it's important. You said some fabulous things about Oregon, and there's, you're right. I've seen that campus, and there are a lot of benefits. But I think we've both been impacted in our lives and our careers by the people we played for. I played for George Horton. You played for Andy Lopez. We're still close to those. You're close to Andy. I'm close to George. Obviously, you work with George. Explain to our listeners, all that stuff's important, development, facilities, all that stuff. But with all the decisions made early, how important it is the impact that coach is going to have on you in your life, how invested he's going to be in you as a person. Because I know we've been invested in our paths with our coaches. How important is that for that recruit to look for?
Well, I think it's massive. And Coach, I think one of the things that I don't hear enough people, the gurus out there talking about in recruiting process is, I hear them talk about, well, go to the campus and go to the camp and this, that, and the other. Go to the practice. Like, go to somebody's practice and watch them practice. I mean, kids making decisions without even, I can't tell you, Coach, how many times I've asked a kid, hey, what school, I'm glad you were interested in Oregon. So, what other schools are you interested in? I'm interested in these schools. Awesome. What's the head coach's name at that school? And they don't know. What's the pitching coach? The kid's a pitcher. What's the pitching coach's name that you would work with at that school? No concept of it. And I'm sitting there going, well, what are you making your decision on? And now you think that, I mean, it's how is that going to equal success when you choose a school and you don't even know anything about the school, the head coach, the pitching coach, if you're a pitcher, or a hitting coach, if you're a hitter, what they've done in their career, why would you want to play for them? And actually, when I was at practice, did I like what I saw? Did the players, how were the players at that practice? Were there a bunch of zombies walking around on the field? not having any fun? Or was it like uplifting, energetic, and man, this is awesome. These dudes are having a blast at practice. For me, that's the real deal. When you are a recruit out there and you're trying to figure out, where am I going to school? I had a guy tell me one time, find the best junior college in your area and go see that practice. And it's going to rock your world. When I went to a JC, my dad told me, oh, you're going to be the best player. You can't even look at the junior college. I showed up at a junior college after my freshman year in college because I went over my first 3 college weekends against Stanford, UCLA, and Cal Berkeley. And I remember facing, the Stanford pitching staff that year, and Mike Mussina was throwing on Saturdays, not even on Fridays. And, Rick Helling was throwing on Sundays. And I'm sitting there going, well, okay, I'm not good enough. I bounced to a junior college. My old man tells me, hey, you're going to be the best guy at that junior college. And I remember walking out there. I wasn't even in the top 5, probably not even in the top 10 players at the JC I went to. And I'm sitting there going, my God, I should have done this in high school as a sophomore, junior, rolled out to a couple of the best JCs in the area just to see what it looked like. It's an hour out of your day. What else are you going to do? To show up to that JC with a great coach and watch them work, see what those players are doing, and know they're not going to have fancy stuff. And it doesn't matter. We didn't get anything at Santa Ana Junior College. I mean, my God, we shared big gulps from down the street. That's how poor we were. We didn't have a damn dime. And yet, if you had the desire, the odd thing is at that batting cage with holes in the nets and no machines and balls that sucked and were taped and strings hanging off of it, there were 2 batting tunnels and a couple big gulps that were being shared by about 12 different dudes trying to get swings in and get better, because that coach was so good, Don Snedden was so good at teaching and so good at connecting with players like we're talking about, that he had that culture built up. And it wasn't a sexy place, but yet you had the desire of the player that really wanted to get better. And if I'm a young player out there getting recruited, yeah, it's an honor to go and see Tim Corbin's program at Vanderbilt and John Savage's program at UCLA and some of these great coaches that are out there come to Oregon, see what's going on. And when you go to these places, watch their practice, but don't forget about going to a local junior college that has a legit coach and show up there just for perspective and see where you would weigh in and stack up against those guys and see how they teach it and the energy that those guys bring to the field and their players have at practice every day. It's only going to help you.
That is such a tremendous point that I am really hoping that it resonates with not only student athletes, but families as a whole. Going to a college practice can be the most enlightening experience from an educate. Where do you fit in to this team, this program? I know your expectations, where they are, but going to a practice. And so carrying that a little bit further, and just talking again from that transition from high school to college, it's May, we enter into June, it goes, some guys do the summer courses that they're about to enter into as a freshman in college. What do you think the biggest transition point is for a student athlete making that kind of that leap from that high school to that college program, whether it be routine, whether it be time management? What do you think is the biggest neglected area that most student athletes fail to prepare for during that transition period?
Number 1, weight room. Number 2, the actual schedule that you're going to live, period. Like, if you're not big and strong, sorry guys, it happened, COVID. It wasn't fun. And yet there's 23, 24-year-old guys on every field now, and they're bigger and stronger than most high school guys. You got to get in that weight room and kill it. And that means your nutrition needs to be there and your sleep needs to be there. And you better have your calendar laid out and nailed. It isn't social time 101. I mean, this is a ruthless deal. This is a ruthless level of baseball. So is professional baseball. And so if you're good enough to get into this level, and this is something that you say, boy, this is what I want to do. I want to play at the top. I want to get to Omaha. I want to play in the big leagues. This is ruthless stuff. And so you have to be totally disciplined and dedicated to your trade. And if you're not, you're going to get lapped. And so just simplify it like that. I see the guys that come in and just go, wow, I'm going to kill it in the weight room. I'm going to pound it. And I'm going to stay on task with a very simple schedule and not get distracted by the outside influences. Those guys got a fighting chance. I like their odds. the guy that wants to go to the frat party and the sorority party and he's getting caught up in that stuff, I don't care how talented he is. I've seen that guy just fall off. And, you know, they usually are the guys that look really groggy in the morning. They usually are the guys that don't quite look as physical as the guy that's been dedicated at the level that he should be. And by the end of it, they're usually in the training room because they're hurt and their bodies are breaking down. And then their max potential is never reached because they just don't have the discipline to crush the schedule. The calendar and the schedule and the weight room, specifically, those two areas are massive.
Last question for me was, new legislation just came down from the NCAA. Do you feel the calendar or the opportunity to only start talking to juniors after a certain date, do you think that helps with less mistakes being made by the student athletes and by the coaches?
Well, I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure all that stuff out. I just know the rules are whatever they are, and whatever they are, then we need to adapt. And it's kind of like COVID. Like whether you liked it or not, it didn't matter. The rules were given to you, and you needed to follow them, whether you liked them or not. It didn't matter. You could get into an argument about it, and it's just going to waste time. And so for me, the rules have come down. This is what they are, whether I like them or not. The bottom line is now it gives the young player the opportunity to, without distractions, just stay focused on getting better. How about just stay focused on becoming a better version of whatever you're bringing to the table? Get faster, get stronger, get more disciplined with what you're doing with your trade. Enjoy the piss out of it because it should be a lot of fun. The whole process that we have, it should be an awesome time. But I don't know. For me, it's a waste of time talking about things that have been legislated. Whether you like it or not, it's real. It's here. So what? Like it's almost like if you don't like it, it's almost like a bad inning. Get over it. It's on to the next inning, and you better get on the next pitch, or you're going to have that one inning equal two bad innings. So I don't like two bad innings. I'd rather just have one bad pitch and just get to the next one. The legislation is what it is. Let's just not focus on it. Let's focus on what it allows us to do. And it allows a young player right now to get committed and to get into the trenches without maybe distraction and go for it. You know, by the time you're a junior or whenever we're allowed to talk with you, then be the best guy. How about that?
Well, Mark, I want to say thank you for joining us today. This has been a fantastic segment from an information standpoint, an education standpoint. I hope parents and student athletes take advantage of this valuable insight and educational information that Coach Waz was able to share with us. Go Ducks, and I wish you the best of success, not only in the Pac-12, but regionals, and hopefully end up in that Midwest city in June, and hopefully you have a fantastic season. Go Ducks.
Honored to be with you guys. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks,
Go Ducks.
Thanks.